Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. My name is John Harris, and I'm the International Education Lead at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. This is one of our videos on the warm-up to the Central Asia Trade Forum, which is taking place in October 2021. We do hope you'll join us for the Transport and Logistics panel, which is taking place on day 3. So that's on the 6th of October. But in the meantime, we have a special guest that we're in conversation with. Welcome, Manas.
Hello, John. Thank you very much for this invitation.
Excellent. So we have with us Manas Usserbayev. He is a member of CILT in Kazakhstan, and we've been working with Manas over the last couple of years on a number of projects. But importantly, we realized he had quite a lot of knowledge that's relevant to this year's trade forum when we look at transport and logistics, and particularly some of the digital connections. So first of all, Manas, just tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, first of all, I'm a real logistics man, as all of my working career is within logistics, procurement, or supply chain processes. I started 20 years ago already as a junior officer within customs clearance auditing company, and finally grew up to the position of the director of logistics department within Kagazi Recycling. Kagazi Recycling is the biggest Central Asian carton packaging materials producer. And in the middle as well, I occupied key logistics positions within large-scale production companies presented in our area, like Philip Morris, Kazakhstan, and like BASF Central Asia. So all of my career is within logistics.
Excellent. So thank you very much for giving us a quick insight to your career history. Now, you said your last key role was working as a director of logistics at Kagazi Recycling. Can you tell us specifically about that role and some of the challenges that presented themselves over the last couple of years, particularly during the COVID crisis?
Well, very interesting question, John. Let me to say a few words about Kagazi Recycling in the beginning. Kagazi Recycling is one of the biggest Central Asian producers of the carton packaging materials, employing over 600 workers, or maybe now already about 700. And of course, logistics department is one of the biggest, around 140 employees. COVID crisis very much impacted to the logistics operations. Let me specify key challenges we had from my point of view due to this pandemic situation we faced from last year. Well, first of all, broken supply chains we faced during this period, especially in the deep point of the crisis with borders closing. You remember last year, last spring, somewhere in April and May, for example, border with China were completely closed. Even many producers obliged to stop their productions. This was a really big challenge. This was a really big crisis situation at the time. The next one is shortage of the workers, both white and gray collars, as many were sick or also prefer to stay home because about 1 year ago, nobody knows what it is, this pandemic, and what it is, this COVID-19 disease. And maybe better to stay home instead of going to the job. So we faced a problem with shortage of the workers. It was last year. It was a real situation. Well, the next challenge, I think, was about managerial difficulties. Why? Because most of the white collars employees worked distantly from their homes, and gray collars employees quite often stayed without direct supervision. Mm-hmm. Well, we can't send our forklift drivers or our loaders or our truck drivers to work from home. This is impossible. They have to work in their working places. but we may, and we were even obliged to send home our white collars. And you see, gray collars became independent, let's say like this, during some period, and they worked receiving instructions, receiving orders, receiving information directly from their supervisors who was as a white collars who worked from their homes. Well, but this worked. This is possible. We found that this is possible. Well, what is more, because of quarantine restrictions, team meetings were cancelled or very much limited. And same is for business trips and educational courses. And this is additional managerial challenge we faced too last year, mainly, but also this year as well. Additional unbudgeted costs we were obliged to buy sanitary equipment, and we were obliged to change our some processes to meet with new regulations, new sanitary regulations. And especially last year, we had some shortage of such materials, such sanitary materials in the market. And we were obliged to push our procurement department, please find this or another thing. We need this device, we need this equipment in our warehouses, for example, because we have to follow sanitary rules. Well, this is from my point of view more interesting and key challenge we faced last year mainly, and as well this year due to this COVID crisis.
Okay, thank you, Manas, for that really comprehensive and open view of what was going on within that company. I think many other logistics operators around the world, not just in Central Asia, will kind of, in their own minds, go, yeah, this is my situation. I can identify very much with some of those challenges with management, with operational needs. I want to move us on, though, to the digital side of this. And just thinking for a little bit about the role of digitalization, just cast your mind back to what's happened over the last year or so. What kind of technological and process changes might have helped in addressing some of these issues, not just at Kagazi Recycling, but perhaps more generally for business? What do you think, Manas?
Well, from my point of view, pandemic, which we are all facing now, is very much pushed all of the processes and logistics processes as well, of course, pushing to the direction of the digitalization. And in case of logistics, this is mainly, from my point of view, about planning and supervising activities and not activities related to gray collars. Well, why? Because loading, unloading operations, for example, or transportation processes still remain the same. We, from my point of view, now we can't digitalize loading and unloading, for example. Still will remain the same as it was 5 years ago, then it was 10 years ago. Some boxes, some pallets have to be unloaded, have to be loaded inside the trucks, etc., etc. But proper digitalization of the planning and supervision activities can bring many advantages from my point of view for the whole organization. For the proper labor resource management, for example, for decreasing of the costs, less waste in natural forms and waste of time. Let me to provide you some examples. Pandemic clearly shows that big production companies still can operate and properly produce finished goods, having up to 80% of the white-collar staff working online and distantly. Can you imagine? For example, this is a real situation in my experience when 80% of the white collars work distantly, where during not one day, by the way, not during not 1 week, but we are talking about period of few months, and still and yet production is run, still and yet production company produced goods, finished goods. And now we have to clearly think about decreasing of many office working places. And why not to keep it, not 80% maybe less, but still and yet, why not to keep these positions working, continue working from homes? And this is about also digitalization. This is also about changing of the working schemes, changing of the working processes. Well, we are ISO certified company, and all of our, ISO 9, for example, 9001, which is a management quality management system. And we also started changing of our policies and procedures. So the process started already now. Well, again and again, maybe not 80%, but some person for sure should, some person of white collar in place should stay home, from my point of view. This will be my answer for your question, John.
Yeah, again, thank you, Manas. That's really comprehensive. And I think you've hit the nail on the head that whilst digital will have a key role to play, it's very important. The human behavior, the human side, and how people actually react to new ways of working is equally as important. Let's go big picture now, if we can. We talked a bit about company impact, organization impact. But what do you think needs to happen to address trade barriers and challenges to support Kazakhstan and Central Asia more generally? So we're going a bit macro now, Manas, but what's your opinion on this?
Well, you know that Kazakhstan is 9th country in the world by territory. We have really many land. And also, if you are talking about not only Kazakhstan, but as well our neighboring countries like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, if we are talking about our Central Asian region, so we really one of the biggest regions in the world. And same time, as everybody knows, we are most far located from the ocean. We are really landlocked countries, all of us. And we are different. In our big Central Asian region, we have different customs regimes, for example. Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan are the members of the Euro-Asian Economical Union, together with Russia, Belarus, and Armenia. And this Euro-Asian Economical Union means that we don't have customs borders at all. So Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, we are very close in terms of customs processes, and no, again and again, customs borders between our countries. Another 3 countries, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan, they are not members of the Euro-Asian Economical Union, but we are all 5 members of Community of Independent States. You know, this is also some kind of a union, not such deep like Euro-Asian Economical Union, but still and yet this is some kind of union. So almost no trade barriers between Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. No customs officers in the border, so goods can openly, directly move border without even being stopped. And for me to arrange truck, for example, from Astana to Almaty, and almost the same is to arrange truck from Bishkek, the capital of Kyrgyzstan, to Almaty. This is all almost the same process, almost the same organizational process. And if you're talking about another 3 Central Asian countries, from my point of view, unfortunately, the most worst situation is in Turkmenistan. Why? Because this country is closed, and this country is do not want to connect, want to join their customs processes, and they want to be independent. This is some kind of a political games as usual. And if you're talking about Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, they are somewhere in the middle. They are trying, especially Uzbekistan, and the latest maybe 2-3 years, when Shavkat Mirziyoyev, the new president of Turkmenistan, came to the power, and he wants to promote business, promote producers, local producers, Uzbekistan producers, and want, of course, to dispatch goods as more as possible. Well, what to say more? From my point of view, the key barrier is lack of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Well, rules are specified, more or less. Yes, maybe except Turkmenistan. And when it is lack of trust, then there are many wrong things happening, unfortunately. Rules just have to be executed in the manners they have been specified. As example, Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, Euro-Asian Economical Union, working properly. Rules are specified. Customs processes now is not presented at all. And but still and yet appropriate reporting must be done. Both Kazakhstan companies, Kyrgyzstan companies, we have, of course, to provide governments with appropriate reports that goods were received, shipped or received, etc., etc. But still and yet, no, from my point of view, with customs processes, it is very easy now. Again and again, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan somewhere in the middle, customs processes are available now, but still and yet, rules are specified, being a part of Community of Independent States in the appropriate documents. The customs processes, trading processes are specified, and we have just to follow these rules without any games, without any political, interruptions, some kind of political things. This is my point of view.
Yeah. Excellent, Matt. Again, I think it comes back to this human dimension, doesn't it? That if you're going to have strong governance, if you're going to have processes, it's really important that behind that there's a strong trust relationship and that it works. There's no point bringing in smart technology or digital if actually fundamentally there's some sort of inner conflicts or things going on. So that's definitely something that we're going to be picking up on the at the CATF meeting, and looking at this kind of balance of digital on one side and the need to get processes and the fundamentals right over on this side. So that's really helpful examples, Manas. We're nearing the end of our In Conversation piece now, but the next couple of questions just relate back now to enterprise within Central Asia. And you've been involved with us at CILT on our business support program, helping small, medium enterprises recover and plan out of the coronavirus crisis. Let's just think a little bit strategically now. What do you think the role is for the small, medium enterprise sector in all of this? Are there digital tools which could be used to support this sector, in particular, to help de-risk the market? What do you think about that, Manas?
Well, unfortunately, the role of the small and medium enterprise sector is not enough big in Kazakhstan economy. And our government understands it and trying to support. For example, the latest positive things in this direction are 3 years duration moratorium to check small business by governmental bodies. Well, this means that during 3 years period, nobody from government can come to your office and to start some audit. Well, if you are not deeply violating some rules, of course. But if you are doing your business in a proper way, no one from government will be able to come to your office and to start some audit. And for the same 3 years period, government announced that it will be zero income tax for private entrepreneurs. From my point of view, this is really nice, this is really good, this is really proper action from our government. This period starts from the January 2020 and ends on December 2022. So this is some kind of a support, a real support to the real economy, real sector of the economy. And as well, I see big interest for small and medium businesses from our banking sector. As example here, I can say a few words about our Kaspi Bank. For example, you may open private entrepreneurship documents directly in the Kaspi Bank application and in a few minutes. Here as well, we are talking about digitalization. As well, you can use the same Kaspi Bank's application as your point of sales terminal, which is very useful for especially private entrepreneurs. And this much decreases costs for such private entrepreneurs. And I expect that digitalization will move this direction. Both governmental and private areas, especially banking area, will support small and medium enterprises to operate and grow. And of course, they will receive from small and medium enterprises the same taxes. Yes, this 3 years period will end quite soon. And then, of course, if small and medium enterprises will grow, will stay on legs in a proper way, of course, they will start paying taxes. So government will win and banking sectors will win also. Yes, they will receive their fees for operating by their applications, for operating by their devices, etc. So from my point of view, this is a win-win story.
Okay. Nothing like finishing our conversation positively, Manas. And yeah, digital's got a real role to play. And I think proportionately for the small enterprise sector, making sure access to finance, access to affordable financial services is going to be critical, not just for Kazakhstan, but in the other Central Asia countries. Perhaps we can finish off just with a personal insight. We started with you explaining a bit about your career. We know that you've been really making a personal impact through CILT as a trainer and facilitator with us, and also a small medium business advisor. Just to round this off, tell us what you've learned being a part of the CILT family.
Well, I'm really glad and proud to be a part of a big CILT family, really. I learned many from my new colleagues and friends, especially in the direction of soft skills, cooperation, creativity, working with big level of information, resistance to stress, self-organization and motivation. Being a trainer of CILT courses, I was happy to share my 20 years knowledge and skills to the listeners, an opposite way to learn from their experience and skills. Participation on the business support program and other CILT projects gave me new contacts and deep additional understanding of the logistics processes within Kazakhstan and neighboring Central Asian countries. And I would recommend to as many as possible logistics professionals to join CILT. For the ladies, I would suggest to join WeLab, Women in Logistics and Transportation, a part of CILT directly to ladies. For the younger generation, I would suggest to join CILT Next Generation. And I'm absolutely sure every logistics professional will find many interesting and useful within CILT organization for professional development and growth.
Excellent. Thank you, Manas, for your time and for your insights. Just a reminder, some of the themes that Manas has picked on will be discussed by an expert panel at the Central Asia Trade Forum. Remember that it is taking place on day 3, so that is Wednesday, the 6th of October. And we will be discussing with a number of people from World Bank, from industry, from the Institute and others about some of the big digitalization and trade challenges facing the Central Asian economy. So it just remains for me to say a very big thank you to Manas, and we look forward to seeing you later in October.